It's always been drummy, super drummy, drummy AF. Completely, no, always has been. Yeah, no, it's a big part of my identity. My dad was a drummer. Then, you know, he used to beat on our backs, me and my two other brothers, to lull us to sleep as kids. That was a technique that he used, and I guess that's one of the reasons why it has stuck. I come from what you might call a very musical family. My dad, although a diplomat, was a musician in his youth, and then, you know, he became a professional musician for a while here in Trinidad, playing drums, and, you know, he even had a band with Mongol Patesa, and he was one of the original members of Dealing the Dan Orchestra, and he won a scholarship to study tabla in India at a university, but on his mother's deathbed, or her, you know, her last sort of words or communication with him was to, son, I'm not sure if music is going to make a big career for you, so, you know, maybe think about that carefully before you decide whether or not you want to be a professional musician or not. And he ended up becoming a diplomat, but he met my mother. My mother was on television in India. She's from there, and incidentally, she interviewed him about being a steel plant player. And literally, they got married 3 months later and came back to Trinidad. And then my dad entered the foreign service. So then, I guess it's a generational thing. And you know, although I've always been surrounded in it, I didn't take it completely seriously, more than a hobby, until about 2006, when another career didn't pan out. I listen to a lot of classical music. I have been for some time. Maybe for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been listening to a lot of Russian classical music, because I love how the intersection happens between the West and the East. In that sense, it's because of their geographical location, the heritage of the instruments, and just the way that the sound doesn't sound completely Western and completely Eastern. And to me, I'm in a kind of junction like that myself, where, you know, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, but from many other places as well at the same time. You know, having grown up the son of a traveling, like, you know, family, but the influences are crazy. My experience in the UK is one where I, you know, I'm represented as a Caribbean artist, and you can tell that there's a lot of sort of gimmickification, if that's even a word, because I make up words all the time, gimmicks, in as it's related to the portrayal of modern Caribbean culture, dancehall, soca, and even, you know, modern African culture, Afrobeats, being the big triangle that is influencing pop culture in the whole world at the moment. And yeah, so for me, I feel like we need to be represented correctly, but that by being ourselves is how we do that. So yeah, it's just about keeping it real and letting them know that, you know, we're this tiny place holding our corner in this part of the world, but we, you know, we've been influencing, and we continue to influence the sound of the world. Trinbagonian music, and Caribbean music by extension, it comes from such an uncommonly put together place that brand, that identity, is something absolutely attractive to people. And so if you represent it right, and you just be like, you know, keep it real, and let them experience it, rather than shoving it down their throat, then your job is just to showcase, in my opinion. But then to innovate as well too. So that's something that I wrestle with. Innovate, or showcase, or which way do I do it? And sometimes I do it in a way that is very literal, in the sense that, for example, every year during Carnival, I would do a production that samples an iconic Caribbean record, and then literally brings it full force into the future, with modern tones, but utilizing the actual record as it was. So to then showcase this, you know, uncommon mix and match, which is our selling point, really. The whole thing is a challenge, and it can be fun, it can be exhausting, it can be fulfilling, it can be unfulfilling, it can be fun, and it can be nightmarish at times. But you know, I decided, I made a conscious decision one year to really give my all and try to be the best that I could in music, and try to represent Trinidad and Tobago as a Trinidadian artist, as a Trinidadian man, as a new Caribbean person. But as well, try to learn as much as I can along the way and try not to stop learning. Early morning, I would review what I'd done the night before, but I started the process of singing quite softly while the rest of my household is asleep. And it's an interesting process because just that in itself made me sort of very introspective about the approach of it. Themes that deal with love and disappointment and hope and want and, you know, party and also like, you know, sobriety and drunkenness and all sorts of different things. So like really contrasting things. But yeah, it's an interesting process. I walk around with a scarf that the Dalai Lama gave me. Yeah, so it's in my bag all the time. That's one thing I don't think anybody. I'ma find it even when the red sun rises. And it's a new day for me. And even if you plan to leave my side, then that's the plan that's for me. And there's no worry, no, because time flies. And she can make